Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Bolton, the President and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association. Late on Friday night, November 5th, marks an historic moment for all Americans with the passing of the bipartisan infrastructure deal that includes an enormous $65 billion investment for broadband deployment in underserved and unserved areas and adoption by in-need consumers. This is the largest single federal investment in broadband, and it will enable communities across the country to invest in fiber as their critical infrastructure, delivering jobs, economic development, online education, remote healthcare, public safety, smart grid modernization, and a path to future services such as 5G. This investment not only greatly improved nearly every aspect of our lives today, but will ensure digital equity for generations to come. I want to thank our members for joining us on Zoom calls with dozens of congressional offices and for your efforts to help ensure this legislation gained bipartisan support. Matter of fact, what we ended up with is that we were able to get 13 Republicans signed on to this bill, which was critical to this passing. So definitely your support and efforts made a big difference. I want to thank our FBA lobbyist team of Steve Perry and Kim Bayless of Perry Bayless, our Chief Regulatory Counsel, Tom Cohen of Kelly Dry, and our Public Policy Chair, Ben Moncrief of C Spire, our Policy Board Liaison, Joanne Hovis of CTC, and all the members of our Fiber Broadband Association Public Policy Committee for their leadership, expertise, and passion as we work to drive this legislation over the goal line. As the President Biden signs this bill into law, the clock will start at NTIA to implement this $42.5 billion of Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program called BEAD, as they will have 6 months to develop the program guidelines and issue the Notice of Funds Opportunity, NOFA. The issuing of the NOFA is contingent on the FCC releasing the updated broadband location mapping as required by the infrastructure law per the Broadband Data Act, which was signed into law last year. The Broadband Deployment and Accuracy and Technology Availability Data Act will require the FCC to collect granular service availability data from fixed, wireless, and satellite providers. It will set strong parameters for service availability data collected from mobile broadband providers to ensure accuracy. It permits the FCC to consider whether to collect verified coverage data from state, local, and tribal governments, as well as from other entities. It also creates a process for consumers, state, local, and tribal governments, and other groups to challenge the FCC maps with their own data and require the FCC to determine how to structure that process without making it overly burdensome or on challengers. It also establishes crowdsourcing process that will allow the public to participate in data collection. It strengthens enforcement against providers that knowingly or recklessly submit materially inaccurate data broadband data. It requires the FCC to use the newly created maps when making awards of broadband funding. The $65 billion in broadband infrastructure funding has a number of programs that will be administered by the NTIA, the Rural Utility Service, and the FCC as follows. So $42.45 billion in the BEAD program will be overseen by NTIA, which in turn will make these grants available to the states based on their needs of unserved locations to fund broadband network deployment, adoption, and other broadband-related programs. At least $100 million is reserved for each of the 50 states. $14.2 billion affordability connectivity program, which the FCC will oversee, and which will extend and modify the currently emergency broadband benefit program and provide $30 per month broadband subsidy for low-income and other in-need consumers. There's $2.75 billion digital equity program overseen by NTIA to ensure that individuals and communities have the information technology capacity that is needed for full participation in the society and economy of the United States. $2 billion in additional funding for the RUS Reconnect programs, $2 billion additional funding for the tribal broadband programs, which NTIA oversees, and will make its first awards shortly. $1 billion for the new middle mile program overseen by NTIA to build a high-speed backbone for communities, businesses, and anchor institutions, and $0.6 billion appropriation for tax-exempt private activity bonds, which states and local governments can use to enhance broadband deployment. So there's a lot going on there, and at our premier member meeting on December 6th to 8th, it's actually on the 7th in DC, we will have NTIA at that meeting, and we'll be discussing this in further detail. So look forward to see you guys in DC. All right, this is all great, but next steps, we really have to focus on what we're going to do next. And so while the passing of the bipartisan infrastructure bill is a monumental milestone, our work is far from done. We now need to move our focus from Congress to NTIA and the state and local level. Only 26 states currently have broadband offices, and other states have a designate, which is typically some type of multi-agency broadband task force. And while 40 states currently have broadband programs, these state broadband programs vary widely. So what we're going to do about that is the FBA is currently developing a playbook to outline the best practices from the top state broadband programs to help NTIA and assist states in accelerating the availability and efficiency of deployment of the broadband infrastructure funds. So the Fiber Broadband Association is going to be closely working with NTIA and the FCC into 2022. We anticipate a high level of activity as the NOFO is under development, with no shortage of pushback from industry groups that feel fiber is a threat. In addition, the Fiber Broadband Association is working with state broadband and workforce development offices in states to quickly scale our nationally accredited fiber optic technician training program, which we call optics, so that our industry has the boots on the ground to get fiber installed to every American. While we're over a year away from seeing this broadband infrastructure funding deployed, there's no need to wait to start funding start your fiber broadband projects. Billions of broadband funding's already been appropriated and is available today as states and local governments use block grant ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, funding, and the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund. In addition, the FCC is beginning to release the $9 billion from phase 1 of the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, RDOF. RUS is also accepting applications for grants and loans that should total over $1 billion for the Reconnect program. And NTIA will award $1 billion in tribal funding and almost $300 million for public-private partnerships. So we need the assistance of all our Fiber Broadband Association members as we work at both the state and federal levels to ensure this funding is deployed for fiber projects. As an industry, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to accelerate the deployment of fiber broadband networks to ensure digital equity and enable every community to leverage the economic and societal benefits that only fiber can deliver. So we're off to a great start, and I think 2022 is going to be a fantastic fiber year. So again, we really look forward to all your support. Hopefully many of you will be able to join us in DC on December 7th for our premier member meeting. And please reach out to me if there's anything we can do or have any questions. But it's been a great year in 2021. And it's going to be even better for the years to come with all this fiber investment. So thank you very much.